I'm Candice Maximovich, and I'm catching up with your candidate as they campaign for your vote in the upcoming federal election. Get to know your candidate as a person and as a politician. Learn about the issues that matter most and become inspired to engage in the political process. I'm catching up with Gölök Buday, candidate for the Libertarian Party in Vancouver East, BC. Welcome.
Hello.
With the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been ongoing rules and guidelines set in place by the federal government, the provinces and municipalities across Canada, such as wearing masks, social distancing, and staying at home. Is it an exercise of one's constitutional rights to protest COVID-19 restrictions, as we've seen happen across the country?
Absolutely, and I wish it had more effect out here, though. I mean, we just got hit with our own passports as such. Right now, can't go to a restaurant unless you're going to advertise that you're double vaxxed and stuff like that. It's imperative that we do protest these things and fight them any way we can, as civilly as we're allowed to, and not take any of the crap. I mean, even if you are vaccinated and stuff like that, you should at least on principle be willing to protest and refuse to share that you're vaccinated. And you know, like the Italians did, that was great. I mean, a bunch of people burning their vaccine passports and their vaccine cards and stuff like that. It was terrific. So yeah, I mean, things like that are awesome, and I think it's because it's grown to it's more than just lockdowns and stuff like that. Now it's a violation of our own medical privacy. I mean, sure, if you want to say I have this problem, but you don't want to say you have that problem, it doesn't open your whole medical file to the public just because, I don't know, once you said you're autistic, you know. So, I mean, people should be able to decide for themselves what they share, what they don't share. And I think it's important that as part of a protest, we even extended to refusing to share our own vaccination status, because in solidarity with, I hate to use the word solidarity because it seems pinko, but in unity with all the people who didn't get vaccinated and the people who did get vaccinated who care about their privacy. And right now, that's the thing that's really getting under attack. And it's funny, they attack private business factors like sporting events and restaurants where you're pretty much sit a reasonable distance from each other, as opposed to a bus where you're crammed together. And it's really just a power play, and we got to fight that power play. I mean, so yeah, it's an exercise. It's a disgrace what they were doing in Ontario and Hamilton and Quebec, especially, about these protests. Vancouver has it a little better because I think our chief of police is better than most have been. I think on some other chiefs probably would have been a little more heavy-handed. But yeah, it's a definite exercise of our rights to protest anything. I mean, anything we dislike. I mean, I think I'm not really onto this extinction stuff, but they have a right to protest things and that they don't like. Black Lives Matter should have had the right to protest as well. Regardless of what people feel about it, and it's everyone should be okay protesting things they see wrong with society. It's not for the government to choose. It's we got to be able to express ourselves intellectually in order to avoid nastier explosions in society, like because it's better that than we go into an all-out war with guns a-blazing. Yeah.
The Canadian government regulates media ownership in the state of media through the CRTC. How does this affect Canadians, and what changes would you make to the way media is regulated?
Well, it basically regulates what we can or cannot hear. It tells reporters what they can and cannot report. It forces the hand of news outlets. It's even going to affect independent journalism, very difficult. And I think the CRTC and the heritage ministry should be completely abolished. I actually called the heritage ministry for several decades now the propaganda ministry, because that would be a much more accurate term for it. The government should not be the arbiter of what we should believe, what is true or false. It should not be the arbiter of what gets reported, what doesn't get reported. And this bill C-10 is really nasty. I mean, the idea that a politician would become a protected class, that is the most absurd protective class I've ever heard of to this date. The idea that even reporting on a politician in a negative way would be deemed illegal is a dangerous, dangerous thought. And we should protect the right of the press, and we should protect free thought. We should be able to choose for ourselves what we decide to believe. And there should be absolutely no regulation on such medias. I mean, if people provincially wise, I mean, if you don't exactly want hardcore porn on regular network television, for instance, I mean, that would probably be someone will probably say, what about porn? What about this stuff? Well, provincially, they could probably put some sort of regulation saying, okay, at this time to this time, there's so much gore and sexuality and stuff like that, and this time to this time, there's so much gore and sexuality. They can, maybe set times on a provincial level, but as far as entertainment goes, but to outright tell people what they can and cannot watch is a very dangerous thing. And even if we don't like it, we don't have to watch it. And that's also an important factor. And granted, I mean, certain periods where kids are generally supposed to be awake, you wouldn't have certain things at that time. But I mean, if some station has porn at midnight or whatever, that's whatever. That's their prerogative. But you counter that with counseling bailouts and which is also an issue too with the press. I mean, a lot of these media companies, they wouldn't be quite so cavalier to misrepresent what their audience wants and needs if they weren't getting bailouts and financial endowments from the government. And corporate welfare is something else libertarians tend to oppose immensely, and I am one of them.
What do you believe are the appropriate boundaries between religion and government?
Well, I mean, people will always have their own personal religious slant to things based on how they grow up. So, I mean, you can't really separate that completely. I mean, I grew up Catholic, and I hold dear the values of life, even despite being libertarian. And so some people might take issue with that, but I mean, it's how I wasn't raised to look at life as a bad thing. But some atheists too are also take dear life as well. So I mean, I do look at things on a secular level when it comes to politics either way. And I think it's good to have separation of church and state. I mean, it's even rooted in the Bible, where it was referring, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, what is God, what unto God. That principle. And oddly enough, we do actually have a coin that has somewhat of a Caesar on it, the Queen, and also the Pope of a religion, which kind of does complicate things a little bit, because I mean, the Anglican Pope is our sovereign, which I oppose. I am an anti-monarchist. But I do believe we should not further any religion with government finance, and I think we should also not be preventing the exercise of religion, like the U.S. First Amendment refers to. people should have a right to worship as they wish, and their worship shouldn't be forced on anybody. That's basically the best way to deal with those things. I mean, granted, we will always have like I said, we're always raised with things, and we will always have some sort of ingrained viewpoint that based on a lot of things that we grow up with. Sadly, some people are completely brainwashed by the school system, the government school system. That's a whole other story. But yeah, I mean, it's important that people have some sort of, it's important people have the rights to be able to worship their things without being totally questioned on it when they're making votes. But I mean, if you're going to go into parliament and start a prayer, or if you're going to go into parliament and bash people with a Bible, I think that would be drawing the line. But if you are influenced by it in any way, I don't think that should be held against you. I mean, there are a lot of good things that can come from it. I mean, a lot of people don't even like taxation because of their religious raising, and they don't. Some people aren't buying O'Toole's levy thing because they know the Bible, because the tax collector in that was even named Levy. Of course, I think the term's more related to the term leverage, but which doesn't make it much better. But yeah, I mean, I think it's important that people have their rights to religion, so long as they don't enforce it on anybody else, and as long as, and if they got, if their religion leads them to certain policies in their mind, that's, and other things that raise them, that's not really the same thing. And it's as long as they're not, saying you have to have this scripture and that scripture and that scripture. I mean, they try to force Sharia law sometimes on people, which is kind of wrong as well. I mean, and that should be exercised well. I mean, you can't say, there's a big problem right now that they're saying, we can enforce Sharia law, but we can't enforce Christian law, we can't enforce Jewish law and stuff like that, right? So you need we need people who are consistent on that and say, you can't force Sharia law, you can't force the Bible, you can't force the Talmud, you can't force any of that on people. And that's fine. That's fine as long as it's consistent. And well, anyway, yeah. The First Amendment in the United States has it probably written the best. The government doesn't further any religion, and it doesn't deny the practice of it.
Unlike the United States, where firearms are primarily regulated by the state, in Canada, firearms are federally regulated. Should firearms be regulated, and by what level of government? And what process would you propose for peaceful gun owners?
Well, I think we should presume everyone a peaceful gun owner until they're proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of committing a crime. I don't think there should be any regulation. I think BC has the worst firearms act, where the cops can basically frisk you if they decide that they think you might have a gun. That's the BC Firearms Act. That's pretty horrific. I think due process is the most important thing, and presuming people innocent is the most important thing. And I don't think someone's guilty because they get in a car. I don't think they're guilty just because they buy a gun. I think most people are just interested in defending themselves and keeping themselves safe. And with the realization that cops can't just materialize there when a madman's at your door. And it becomes very dangerous when the government, of all things, that kills more people than they claim COVID kills on a daily basis through all sorts of policies, including war and gun sales to warmongering countries in the Middle East, and they're out there dictating to their own citizens whether or not they can have a gun. That's just wrong. I mean, on what moral standing is there for the government to say, no, you can't have this way to defend yourself against us or a criminal and things like that? So I never bought into this common sense gun control stuff. it was never really common sense. It was just it was just oppressive, and it was presumptuous. It violates a lot of things. It violates presumption of guilt, your right to defend yourself, and your right to a trial if you are even accused of something horrible. I mean, just having a gun alone, that's not horrible. That's just having a gun at your home. That's having it in your glove compartment isn't horrible. It's just having it in your glove compartment. Having it on your side, that's not horrible. It's just having it on your side. Horrible is walking into a bank, robbing it. Horrible is knocking on your ex-girlfriend's house. She opens the door and you shoot her in the head because you didn't take the breakup well. Horrible is hold a gun to a woman's head in the alley and demand she unclothe herself and things of that nature. That's horrible, but even if that happens, you still have the due process factor. You still prove it happened. You prove that that person did it, and then you punish them. And when they're in jail, there's no reason why they should have a right to have a gun. But when they're outside on a non-parole basis, and they've done their time even, then, they're, in my view, they're innocent until proven guilty again, or innocent until proven guilty if they've never been in jail. Parole, I have a problem with. I mean, they shouldn't parole people in the first place. They shouldn't have conditional release. But that's another issue entirely. But the fact is, unless you're proven guilty of committing a crime with a gun, or anything for that matter, you shouldn't be punished for it. And you shouldn't be deprived of your innate right to defend yourself.
Victims of gun violence have been at the forefront in the battle for gun control, wanting to prevent other families from suffering as they have. How would you address the root causes of gun violence?
Well, the root causes of the gun violence could even go back to a mother who didn't raise her child right. I mean, or it could go to fatherless families. It can go back to some sort of nasty thing that happened in a childhood that's twisted someone, or someone had a bad incident in their life when they're an adult even. There's no one root way to violence. And when it comes to sociopathy, I mean, those people will commit violence regardless. It's not the gun that tells people commit a crime. It's people have, I mean, with certain people, I mean, a flashing number on a microwave can tell them to kill somebody. The roots of crime is basically the lack of personal responsibility. I mean, we're always quick to justify what criminals do afterwards. Like, we say, well, the violence in video games are too big or too much, or the violence in movies, or the gun, it was too easy to buy, or this or that. We never blame the person who commits the crime. And that just adds to the self-justifications that criminals planning to commit violent crimes will just add to their query. They'll just say, well, I'm an incel, or they'll say, well, I'm product of a broken home, or I'm a this, I'm a that, or it was just too easy to buy that gun. They'll do anything. Criminals will do anything to justify their own actions, and we should, well, most especially the press should do less to justify their actions. The politicians should do less to grandstand and just try to justify their actions based on the criteria they have. It should just be, this guy's a scumbag. He did a horrible thing to this person, or allegedly at least. And if he's proven guilty, he should go to jail and suffer the consequences. And in some cases, they should never be. I mean, violence is a lot of things. Violence isn't always guns. I mean, I don't care what party it was, liberal, conservative, or liberal again, or conservative. for years, we've let rapists just go out. They're released all the time. I'd hear on conditional release, child molesters, rapists. I mean, and no one ever cut their penis off. Pardon the crassness, but that's the fact. I mean, and that's their weapon, and they're born with it. So, or some might try and do that to get into a woman's prison, I hear. But but anyway, they will try to accommodate them that way. But they make it easy for criminals because they, I mean, first-degree murder will get conditional release as well. They'll get parole. I mean, I believe in you get released on time for good behavior. You don't get off early for good behavior. I don't think we should. I think we should free up the space with nonviolent criminals for more violent criminals. We shouldn't be releasing the violent criminals. I mean, not that easily. I mean, maybe if it's second degree or heat of passion stuff, but I mean, if you're talking about some serious violent stuff, we should be holding them as long as possible. I mean, rapists, serial murders with a pattern crime, child predators, these people should be in jail for all their entire lives and never see even their burial should be behind bars. Those are situations where these sociopaths will never change. And it's not because there are guns out there. It's not because there are knives out there. It's not because there are ways to kill people with blunt force trauma. It's just because they're bad and they like doing it. And it gives them a sexual arousal to do it. That's the real problem. I mean, the fact is we make it too easy on violent criminals, and we make it too hard on non-violent criminals, and we should make those distinctions and resolve that problem.
We're going to move to a series of lighter questions. What about the Libertarian Party most resonates with you?
Well, I like that I can be somewhat independent while I run, and be a little more out of the box. A lot of parties are much more tight. They're expected to, quote their party platform. If we quoted our party platform, it would take days. There is very verbose, I like the principles of liberty. Basically, I like the fact that we support liberty without question. We support people's right to free speech. We support gun rights. We support self-defense rights. Period. We support all the fundamental negative rights. And it also allows for pro-lifers because it recognizes the difference of opinion we all have on that issue. So it doesn't exclude it. I heard the Liberal Party apparently banned them. It's named after what I am. I am a libertarian, and I believe in much less government. I believe in eliminating the equalization payments and bringing that money back home by removing the taxation for that stuff. I mean, they might say, well, Bernier says that too, but no, he says make it more fair. He doesn't want to eliminate it. At least that's what he said to Rebel the other day. So it represents libertarian is what I am, and that's what resonates the most with me. It's the best brand for me, and we're basically a bunch of, they refer to it as herding cats, because we are very independent, and I wouldn't expect anything to be whipped over a vote or anything like that. And they just trust me to support liberty in when I vote, if I am elected, of course.
How do you access news about current events?
Oh, lots of ways. I mean, I read Epoch. I watch rebel at times. I watch the mainstream news too. I mean, some people say we shouldn't do that at all, but the contrarianism doesn't work for me. I like to, I mean, even if the mainstream media is considered the enemy, I think it's still a good idea to keep an eye on the enemy. And I like to read a lot of the alternates that don't have Ian Michael Chung as a masthead member. I basically the internet, print, whatever, wherever I can find a current event view on that I have time for. Basically, I'm open-minded to a lot of things. A lot of people will say, "Well, will condemn rebel or whatever to me." I say, "Well, you still have to keep. You have to consider everything. You can't just shut people out." I mean, some people are a little bad about shutting out the MSN too much too, because that's not being open-minded. That's just bubbling up. It's ignoring that's ignoring what other people are saying. So I like to be open-minded and get a good grasp of what everyone's saying, basically, and whether it's online or offline.
What policy would you most like to see implemented?
Oh, probably a lot of them. I guess I would like to start with a pay cut on parliamentarians, personally. I mean, especially given the royal screw over they've been getting through lockdowns and stuff like that. I would think the politicians have earned a lot less than they've been getting. So, you know, I can see maybe them needing some livable income, but I mean, this shouldn't be a job to get rich on. And we're never going to get around to cutting taxes and eliminating inflation if we keep paying these politicians more and more. You know, cut their pay at some point, then to some degree, and then link it to inflation and deflation, and then let it sit permanently that way.
Why is it important for people to vote?
Because it's another way to voice your opinion on things. I mean, Trudeau's idea that it's the way to end tyranny is a little stupid, because, I mean, a vote put Hitler in charge. So, I mean, the guy's ignorance of history makes me wonder why he was teaching a course on anything anywhere. But yeah, the important thing to vote is to vote your opinion. I mean, if you've never voted before, you should really especially consider it. I mean, just to protest, just, you know, let out some steam against the establishment characters. And you know, I know some people say it's worthless, it's a fixed system, but, you know, they still count the votes to some degree to know whether or not they have to be afraid of implementing things. I mean, they still have to know what people are thinking. And the more people who show up to vote and vote against the establishment, the more likely, even if they, you know, rig it or something, they're still going to have to consider that they had to rig it. And that will still be scary to them. So it is worth voting, especially if you've got anti-establishment alternatives. And, you know, even when I didn't have alternatives, I went to the ballot box and I just spoiled it and I put not applicable in all the circles and delivered my ballot that way. I just thought I should show up, because it still says I showed up, and still shows that there's some people out there who don't like any of what they're doing or saying. So that's important too. Just it's a much more, I mean, if people are spending a lot of time on Twitter complaining about the rigging of things, I mean, the election's a better place to issue your opinion than let's say a Twitter tweet or some sort of social media post. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean,
What's the best advice you've ever received?
It was probably, well, I was doing stand-up comedy and someone said, "Don't let anyone else tell you you're not funny." At least I think that was probably the best advice I've ever received. I don't think there was anything I don't think there was any political advice I didn't get that was worthwhile as advice. I mean, I read a lot of stuff, but that was rather good. But and I learned from history. But as far as I only got advice doing stand up, and that was the best advice I got.
Well, we've reached the end of our time together. Thank you for the opportunity to get to know you and your position on some important issues.
Well, thank you for having me.